Hey everyone, and welcome to the All Elite Zone podcast on YouTube and Twitch. We're here with our we're going to do a Rampage reaction after this, but we're here for with AEW and ROH star Matt Taven, uh, one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. I always compare him to AJ Styles a lot. Uh, but yeah, it's a very great to have you on. I'm at Taven. I know it's pretty like hectic. You're going to WrestleCade and all that. Um, so
Yeah, I'm here in the airport right now. As you can see behind me, this is my lovely digs at the moment. But thank you for the kind words. It's great to be here.
great. So I guess I'll go first, and then Lane, then Jacobs. Uh, and all right. So my first question is, you and Mike Bennett and Maria, you are the Kingdom.
Yeah.
You came to AEW. You came to Impact. You've been everywhere. But now you're in AEW. Uh, well, first I want to say, like, how did the Kingdom come together? Like from the very beginning, it was you, Mike Bennett, and Maria, and Adam Cole. So how did that come together?
Well, the kingdom first came together because it was something that was real. It was something that was happening behind the scenes. Me and Cole were very good friends. Me and Mike had known each other since we started, and we kind of came up in the New England area together, and we were all in Ring of Honor together. And it was kind of a time where I needed something fresh. I needed something new. And Mike and Cole and Maria had already kind of started making this thing. And then it was really a no-brainer just because we're already traveling together as it was that we should join up because what was going on behind the camera was very easy to show on screen. And I think everything that came across as real with the kingdom was because it was. And I think it was something that I tried to do with the second incarnation with the kingdom as well, was surround myself with people that I was close to, that I knew, that I came up with. And I feel like both both versions of the kingdom really kind of encapsulate that feeling of a bunch of guys that not only had been through it together, had gone through a lot of stuff, but were cheerleaders for one another. We're trying to help one another, and we're on a mission to make each other better.
Like that. So I have a question for you. So I was at the pay-per-view back here in Dallas when you guys officially formed Honor No More. So I want to know, like, what's a little insight on that? Like, how did that all come to be? Because I remember my fiance, she was smacking me upside the head with how much I was freaking out as you guys were running by me. So how did Honor No More kind of come to be?
Well, it's very similar to the Kingdom. I mean, Eddie Edwards was someone who came up a little bit ahead of me and Mike in the New England area, but someone that we always looked up to, someone that always helped us out. And that whole crew were guys that were very close to each other in Ring of Honor. Myself, Vincent, Mike, Maria, all Kingdom members. Kenny King is a longtime friend of mine, and PCO kind of our wild card, our muscle of the group. And but it was a no brainer that when we're coming into to Impact, to pair up with a guy that had done so much for me, not just in Ring of Honor, but in the Indies as well, and had always looked out for me, and a little behind the scenes is that Eddie Edwards was one of the first people to reach out to me after the whole Ring of Honor thing happened when the company was first being sold last year about this time, and was a guy that reached out to all of us and kind of got the ball movement on the Honor No More deal. And then once it was time to go, it happened very quick. I think Wednesday of that week, I wasn't even supposed to be in Dallas, and next thing you know, I'm on a flight and we're running out on pay-per-view, and here we go. Here's the next year of my career. But it all really started the same way the Kingdom started, something that was very real, that people knew would come across on screen as real, and we just brought it from behind the scenes to in front of the camera.
Yeah, I could definitely tell. It was one of those like fun factions this year. Like I thought it was one of my favorite moments of wrestling this year. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
answering that question for me because I was super stoked to have it.
No, thank you, man. Honor No More is it's a wild time to kind of look at my career and kind of see this 10 months of Impact block being in there. But it was a blast because Honor No More was a bunch of people that I was real life friends with, and inside the ring, outside the ring, we spent those 10 months together. And especially after all the wild stuff that was going on, it was good to kind of make that next chapter of my career together with a bunch of people that I had been, coming up with for years with.
You were trained by Bob Evans and Spike Dudley. Can you tell
Yeah.
us the impact they had on your career?
I mean, Spike especially, Spike was my first trainer and my main trainer. And it was one of those things where I realized there was so much more to wrestling. I knew Spike Dudley as this hardcore ECW guy. I grew up in the Northeast, so I'd seen ECW. I'd gone and watched the shows. So I when I first went in to train with Spike, I'm thinking, what am I getting myself into? This guy's a hardcore legend for the most part. And then I realized this guy knows so much about wrestling, but he was so smart that he knew his niche in wrestling and how he was going to make it and make more money and to kind of find his place. And that he's not the biggest guy, he's not the Shawn Michaels of the group. He's this small guy, but he's got it all up here, and he made sure he used that to the fullest. And he made a career out of wrestling, was in every major company because of his brain. So it really kind of blew me away the first day that I met Spike Dudley and just realized, like, oh my God, I'm in a master's class right now. I'm jumping into the pool, and I'm in there with someone who's a legit genius. Because I even say, like, go and watch Spike Dudley versus RVD, and
Yeah.
it's crazy because you think like, oh, RVD, but then you watch this and Spike's doing more RVD stuff than RVD is in the match. It's just
Right.
he could adapt to everyone. So it was really something special, and it was cool to. There's so many guys that came from under Spike that have done so many things. So there's times where we see each other or we see Spike and we kind of get to ask him like, hey, what do you think of this or what do you think of that, and to kind of have that relationship with someone as accredited as Spike Dudley was really beneficial for me and Vincent and TK and Mike Bennett and all of us right from the start.
Oh, that's
It
awesome.
definitely shows for sure. Like you kind of like just watching your matches and just going back and watch some of his. It really shows how that psychology transferred over into your career
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's a thinking man's wrestler, and he definitely did his fair share of crazy stuff. But at the same time, he knew when to do it, how to do it, why to do it, and something that still that to this day I use a lot of lessons that Spike taught me in that first couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah. My next question is, well, the Kingdom is now in ROH, AEW, I guess you'd say. Um, Adam Cole is in AEW as well. Of course, his status is not known right now with his injury. Um, could you see a reunion with Adam Cole in the Kingdom in AEW? Well, AEW Ring of Honor type deal.
I mean, I wrestling, you got to say never because Mike came back 5 years and we reunited there. But my big thing when it comes to Adam and just kind of the whole situation is that he needs to take his time and just kind of find out what the future holds for him in general and when it's time to come back. TK Orion was a guy that was in the Kingdom as well, dealt with some concussions, decided that that's probably going to be it. Like he just didn't want to take the risk anymore, and I completely understand that. And that's something that he had to make that decision. And Adam is still recovering and is going to have to kind of. I personally am always one to say, take your time. I've been there with a bunch of different injuries, and I can tell you this much: if you rush it, you'll end up right back to where you were in the first place. So I'm just hoping for everyone that's in that situation just to take their time and figure out what their future holds.
I know you had a knee injury a little bit back. What was something that kept you like your head straight, positive, and saying, hey, I got to come back. I got to get back to the fans in the ring. Because something like that's got to be really tough to get through mentally and physically. So what was that, like your mindset to get you back to that point to say, hey, I got to be the best wrestler I've ever been once the injury was healed up and ready to go?
I mean, for me, I'm always personally finding things to motivate me, you know, things people say, things when people question me, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you elsewise. But for I think most wrestlers, and the reason how we get in it in the first place is that we've seen others do the same exact thing. You know, I can't tell you the list of wrestlers I've seen come back from injuries that are even way worse than the things that I've gone through. And you know, even ones that I saw up close and personal. Tommaso Ciampa was one that, you know, we were close friends, came up in New England. I was personally driving him to some of his rehab appointments every once in a while when he needed a ride. And it's just like I was watching him like fight and come back, and I was like, man, that's what a wrestler is. You know what I mean? It's coming back from all this adversity. It's a hard gig as it is in the first place, and now it's like you get so far and this thing gets thrown on your plate. It's like, I can't stop now. I got to come back better than ever. And there's a lot of things that are kind of blessings in disguise when it comes to injuries as well, because wrestling's a lot about staying fresh and reinventing yourself and not finding always something that's appealing to people. And I think a lot of my injuries gave me time to really kind of think about what I wanted to do when I came back, change up anything that I was looking to change, and really kind of, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I would leave for a little bit. People would miss me here. I'd come right back. So it's you always got to find the silver lining for stuff like major injuries like that. It definitely was tough, and there was definitely plenty of times where I was like, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to go on? But, you know, it's, you throw in that giant knee brace and you keep it moving. So for me, it was just kind of another badge of honor of being a professional wrestler.
Well, I appreciate it, because you guys, especially during the pandemic, you know, really was, well, not just my escape, but I know many fans' escape from everything, and then just giving us entertainment, you know, and just memories just week after week, especially a lot of your matches. I'm always blown away by your stuff in the ring. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you again for everything you do in the ring.
No, I appreciate it. And strangely, like the pandemic worked out for me, because I was able to I was rehabbing my ankle surgery, and I was like, well, if we're going to have time off, I'm going to get my knee cleaned up as well. So by the time I came back, I had rehabbed 2 surgeries. So it was, it worked. I took advantage
Huge
of that
blessing in
time.
disguise for sure.
Yeah.
Well, can you take us back to the night you won the ROH Television Championship?
Oof, long time ago at this point. But, you know, it was my very first night under contract with Ring of Honor. So there was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. I knew I was in there with a person who Ring of Honor had looked at as the future. You know, Adam Cole, everyone knew that they were onto something with him. He's just one of those guys that as soon as you met him, you knew he was going to be a big star. So Ring of Honor was going to move forward with him. And here I find myself the first night I'm under any sort of contract with Ring of Honor and in the ring with what I know their future major star is going to be. So I had a lot of pressure on myself. And also, you know, I know how Ring of Honor fans can be. And when a guy who comes in brand new wins the television championship right off the bat, I knew the reaction was going to be like, he's not one of our guys. So, like, you know, I had a lot of pressure on myself to really kind of feed into that. But I look back on that time with great fondness. Like, it's one of those things I wish I could know what I know now and do it all over again, because my time with Truth Martini and the Ring of Honor Television Championship reign was great. But like now I watch it and there's so many things I know like I could make better. And I think that's, you know, that's life. Everyone will watch back their stuff and be like, "Ooh, I wish I could have that one back." But especially it being my first thing in Ring of Honor, I look at it like, oh, I wish I could have that one back. But at the same time, man, what a night. Chicago was always a great crowd for us. So it was nice to kind of start off with such a bang. And then, upset people right off the bat. Everyone get mad at me right off Jump Street.
Automatic heel heat, man. That's not to say that's what you need. At least you're getting some reaction, and then you win them over in the end.
Hey, you know, we're wrestling's there to make people cheer and make people boo, and trust me, I have no problem doing the role that makes people boo.
I'm gonna go to some of the comments. We are live on YouTube and Twitch right now. Ethan, how was your match against Wardlow in AEW?
I mean, I beat the hell out of him. He's nothing, you know, no big deal at all. It was great. I mean, it was another experience where I find myself thrown in the water again, in the deep end of the pool. First night under contract with AEW, first match with AEW, main event in a place that you know, isn't far from home. I grew up in New England, and Mohegan Sun being there in Connecticut, it was like a lot of familiar faces in the crowd that night. So it's just another place where it's like, let's see if I can get past all this pressure and make it happen one more time. I mean, the result is going to be different next time me and Wardlow get in the ring, I'll tell you that much. But overall, you know, being a kid that grew up in New England and showing up in AEW and main eventing my first night there in Mohegan Sun, I would say that's a win overall in the career of Matt Taven.
Taven.
Definitely one of the top matches for me this year.
Matt Taven and Helico. That'd be an interesting match. Have you?
I would love to wrestle Angelico. We've never wrestled. We both have done a lot of stuff in Mexico, really made our names for ourselves in Mexico, but him with AAA, me with CMLL, you know, two rival companies. So we've never crossed paths, but hopefully we can make it happen in AEW, because I'm a huge fan of him. Huge fan. I think he's one of those guys that's super underrated. And I think that the two of us in the ring together could make some magic.
Angel, please say hi to me.
Hi. How are you?
There's my fiance.
Mike Dudley. Okay, everyone.
Hey, Mike.
What's your favorite match you have done?
My favorite match, I would say, is me and Jay Lethal doing the hour match in Vegas. You know, everyone thinks I'm going to say Madison Square Garden, but to me, that never happens without the match that happens with me and Jay Lethal in Vegas. And it was definitely Matt Taven has moved himself into the heavyweight championship position. Let's see if he can hang with the absolute top guy for an hour. And it was a trial by fire. And it was one of those things where if that match is terrible, there's no way I sniff Madison Square Garden. No way. Or if I do get there, I lose. Like it's not going to have the same result that ended up happening. But Jay Lethal's one of the best people, if not the best person I've ever been in the ring with. And to be able to go back and watch that match and say for a solid hour, we had that crowd on the edge of their seat, and not for a second did they ever kind of get quiet or get stale or kind of, you know, get bored with anything going on in the ring. It was just an hour of a wrestling fans having pure enjoyment, and that's all you could ask for.
So I want to just kind of piggyback off that your statement there. How do you prep for a match of 60 minutes or longer? Like, how do you that mindset? Like, do you have to do extra cardio? Like, how do you keep going for that hour? Because I feel like after 10 minutes on the treadmill, I'm dead.
Oh, it's funny because the first time, or when I heard that was going to happen, I was doing cardio and I kind of just sat there and added 30 minutes immediately. It was like, oh no, here we go. So it was definitely upping my cardio. And at the same time, I'd make a routine of just watching Jay Lethal matches while I did cardio until I was dead, you know, and I would sit there and just watch it over and over again. But it is even on the flight out there, I remember thinking, like, how are we going to get through an hour? And funny enough, I remember there was a point in the match early on where I'm thinking to myself, like, we must be 15 minutes in, you know, we're doing good. Maybe 20 minutes in, we're doing great, maybe. And I looked at referee Todd Sinclair and was like, what time? And he's like, 7 minutes. And I was like, oh no, I'm screwed. Oh no, we're never gonna make it. But no, when you're in there with someone that good, your time kind of flies by, and he is a huge part of my career, whether it's when we feuded for the television title or for the world title, and always brought out the best in me. So by the time, that 15-minute mark had hit, there's a thing called the runner's high when people run for so long that they just kind of hit their stride and they feel like they can go forever. We could have wrestled another hour at that point.
No kidding.
Easily.
So AEW 2-hour match on Dynamite.
if it's that same crowd and that same energy that was going on that match, we could have done it no problem. Someone's going to try to do it, and now it's going to be like a dead crowd where I'm like, all right, I can't go on.
Just do it down here in Texas. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Courtney is here. The party can start.
We need to find out how many claws deep is Courtney Jean. Everyone knows her go-to is White Claws.
I was going to ask, have you ever been pranked, and have you ever pulled any pranks?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, there's always you always have these light little pranks that kind of make the monotonacy, or people stress out so much because it's such a land, go, and so like you're just kind of like moving at all times. You get in these little all right, I do this and that, and then when someone throws you off your game plan, it gets you all flustered, and then everyone loves to laugh at that. So I remember one time in particular, someone hiding the old walking stick that I used to come out with after knee surgery, and it was like my entrance, and I remember being like, all right, I know someone's hiding it, and it's a good joke. But my music's about to play right now. I need that now. And, I'm like, everyone clearly on their face knows where it is. And I'm the only one not in the joke. I'm like, all right, guys. And they're like, I don't know, maybe you should just go to your match. And someone hit it right by the entrance. And I was like, oh, good one. I'm gonna kill everyone when I get back.
That's funny though.
But it's always little stuff like that. It's always never anything malicious. It's just stuff to kind of break up the monotony of stress out. Here's the hotel. Here's the venue. Stress out some more.
Yes.
I guess my next question. This is about the end. This year, last year, ROH Final Battle. There's rumors of ROH possibly folding, and then what happens? Well, kind of. After Final Battle, what was your initial thoughts of before you got the input? How do I say it?
Well, I'll tell you this much. My initial thoughts about what was going to happen after Final Battle was I had no thoughts. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was hoping for the best. And all of us, it's a strange thing when, one person kind of is either released from their contract or their contract expires or whatever the case may be, they find themselves out in the free world. And it always kind of, you watch it from afar and you're like, oh, well, I hope for the best for that person. It's a totally different story when 60 people are all of a sudden just kind of thrown out on the wild, all trying to see what happens next. And like I said, luckily Impact really reached out to us very quickly and I didn't have to stress that much longer. But I knew going into Final Battle that if that was the last time I ever stepped in an ROH ring, that I wanted to make sure that us and the Briscoes had a match that people remembered. And I think that I just recently watched it again because us and the Briscoes are at WrestleCade this weekend, tomorrow night. And so I watched it back again, and there's not many matches in ROH that I'm more proud of. And so I think that's for the Sinclair era, that's the exclamation point I want to remember for that period of ROH.
So I know a lot of wrestlers, they take inspiration from video game, TV shows, really anything in general about their ring gear. Is there a specific ring gear that you love that you got inspired from either by a video game or a movie?
Oh, that's a great question. I love ring gear, and I've had like the opportunity to sit down with some of my idols. I've lucked out and found myself in a car for 4 hours with Bret Hart and was asking him all this intricate stuff about his ring gear. And I was like, oh, why'd you do this design for this? And it's always really fun to pick people's brains for that. I find myself personally, I can define portions of my career from the gear that I'm wearing at that time. And like a Chris Jericho, like you can think of, oh, when he's wearing this, it's that time of his career. When he's wearing that, and I always kind of wanted to have the same feeling. So there's times where certain parts of my gear, it's like, well, I'll take the side of my gear and make it almost like a Bret Hart or a Shawn Michaels or something. But then I want to do the rest something different, so someone doesn't think I'm just ripping off this thing. Or I remember certain T-shirt designs growing up and being like, oh, it's really cool to do it off-centered like this or that. And that's always something that guys like Vincent has always helped me with. He's got a great eye for stuff like that, and we've always bounced ideas off one another. But for me personally, I wear purple because it's a tribute to my uncle who passed away from pancreatic cancer. And as long as it's purple, I'm kind of open to the design, and I'll take any ideas that I see in the wild or I've seen throughout history of wrestling and kind of take little pieces of it and make it my own.
Wow, that's amazing. I never knew that. Well, I love the color, and just to know that even more, it's that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you're doing something great for one of your family members that passed on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We're going to this question. Courtney Jean, questions. One, can you please say hi to Courtney Jean in the Queendom? Two, when can we expect you in AEW again?
Hopefully soon. I mean, first off, hi Courtney, hi Queendom, and that crew right there, the Queendom, the Honor Club girls, the Honor No More girls, whatever they decided to call themselves. That portion of my career has always kind of been there and helped me through everything, and I'm unbelievably grateful for them. But with that being said, it's been times when those people get the loudest that has helped my career. So hopefully, we're back on AEW soon. We definitely get thrown into things very quickly. So I'm sure things are kind of settling out, but I'm assuming with Final Battle around the corner, we'll be finding ourselves on AEW sooner than later.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Let me see. Char Rocks. It's been almost 8 weeks since you've seen me. On scale from 1 to 10, how much do you miss me?
11. You know what? 12. I'll add it. I like 12 better than 11. Hi, Missy. How are you? I hope you're doing good.
The two more. Wheeler Yuta versus Matt Taven.
Ooh.
I would love to do that. I've known Wheeler since he was a kid,
Wow.
First getting trained, and just he's always been such a good human who loved wrestling and just wanted to be a part of it in any way possible. And you always root for people like that. So I'm a big fan of Wheeler.
Mike, AEW is very faction heavy. You've already talked about Adam Cole potentially returning, but is there anyone else on that Blood roster that would fit in with you, Mike, and Maria?
I know a guy named Dalton Castle who I've always been pretty close friends with.
That would be awesome.
That would be great.
Getting fanned by the voices you guys come out.
I've always been a fan of things that come from reality, and Dalton and myself have been as thick as thieves since he got into Ring of Honor. So it's one of those things that it's those things that are extra bonuses about being in AEW, because now I'm seeing all these people that I haven't seen in a while.
That's awesome. Is there anybody in AEW that you are excited to work with, or you want them to be front of the line to work with very soon?
Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has my title. He's always been an idol of mine, and he's dodging me. He's trying to wear purple now. The guy's dodging me.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Shots
It's your
fired.
time, man. Go win it back. Go beat Jericho.
Hey,
That
I think
championship
that's
means
how the
honor brought
story.
back to it.
You know what I mean? If I'm writing this, that's how the story ends. Taven Jericho.
Yes, please.
I was gonna ask, did you play any sports before you started wrestling?
Oh, I mean, I played every sport growing up as humanly possible. I'm a big basketball, football, baseball guy, but basketball and football were always my still prime sports, and still to this day, I find that it's hard to recreate the cardio that you get in a wrestling ring, and I would say probably the closest thing to it is playing basketball. So I will find a pickup game wherever I can to get myself in ring shape.
Yeah.
Christy, hey Matt, it's Chris. Very important question. How's Griff?
Oh, he's the best. That's my golden retriever.
Oh.
It's the hardest part about being on the road is leaving his, and he like sits. Today he was sitting by the door when I left, breaking my heart. But I'll see him in a couple of days.
Mike, non-wrestling question. Are you worried about the Wizards dethroning your prestigious Celtics in Eastern Conference this year?
Ooh.
No, I think the Celtics are playing fantastic, and we have guys on the injury list. And Time Lord comes back healthy, please, Wizards.
Is Matt's favorite band today Green Day? Tonight, Green Day.
I feel like there's a joke there, and because my favorite band isn't Green Day, so I'm wondering what I'm trying to decode this joke. I don't get it. Ryan, I know who Ryan is. Ryan's a great dude. Ryan's the man, but I'm confused with Green Day.
Where's the greatest food you've ever seen in Vinny's beard?
I'll tell you the worst food you ever see, and he'll get like an eggs Benedict or something runny,
no.
and then it'll be like running and you're just sitting there watching him clean it, and it'll never get out of there. It's in there forever.
Oh man.
I guess
That's
my next
nasty.
question is, Tony Khan bought ROH later this year. So what is your thoughts on the new Ring of Honor under Tony Khan?
I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited that first off that it's not just fading off into the distance, and there's a guy who knows what to do with this unbelievable library that he has now, and there's so many things in there that I feel like don't get the credit that they deserve, especially the pandemic Ring of Honor. I think was second to none, and now I think more people will be able to see it when Tony's able to get it out there. So I was pumped that Tony ended up grabbing that, because now that the legacy of Ring of Honor will live on, and also it continues now with a whole new era, and it's been crazy to see all these different eras of Ring of Honor. And one day, wherever it ends up, someone I'm sure will be able to go through the whole streaming service and see it from the very beginning and enjoy it for what it's become.
What was that moment that got you into wrestling as a fan, as a wrestler? What was that one match, that one moment that's like, man, I got to keep watching. I got to get into this. Like what was the start of your journey?
So I can remember this like it was yesterday. This is something that's burned in my mind. I loved wrestling and wanted to be a wrestler since I was 5-6 years old. But I can remember exactly the moment that I got into wrestling. My Uncle Joe was staying with us, and he was a wrestling fan. I had no idea what wrestling was, and I had watched Saturday morning cartoons, and he made me go over and change a little dial on the TV to whatever station it was. And next thing I knew was like the Ultimate Warrior with the background of superstars where like the lightning bolt hits behind him, and it's all the colors. And it was like, to me as a kid at that point, it was like cartoons that I grew up watching had come to life and were real life people. And so, I go from loving He-Man and the Ninja Turtles to seeing the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man. It's like, oh my God, these are things that I was into, but now as real people. And I was hooked. I mean, my poor parents' furniture didn't stand a chance. I was jumping off everything and body slamming every pillow I could find. So it's been a long journey with wrestling and me.
Man, so during that time frame of just all those personalities in wrestling, like I could definitely see like the cartoon character, that just that crazy over the top superhero. Like there was a lot of great wrestlers in that time frame. Was there any like specific wrestler like that was your favorite and that you like? Man, like this guy like is amazing. Like this guy, like every week you wanted to see him win. Like who was that wrestler for you?
Well, I think it goes through different phases, right? At the beginning, it was definitely, the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man were like my first two. But then I became a Bret Hart guy, like a die-hard Bret Hart guy. And then you Bret and Shawn, but you had to pick your side. So I always picked, my first love, Bret. And then as I got into, my teenage years, it was the guys like Chris Jericho and Rob Van Dam that I really kind of always had to make sure I watched their matches. So it's a combination of a progression from, the Macho Man all the way to RVD, Chris Jericho. And there's different time periods of my fandom where I can look back and be like, oh, those are the years I was obsessed with this guy,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us your worst injury that you've had?
Final Battle 2015. The ECW Arena. We're defending the titles against War Machine, who are now the Viking Raiders. And I came off the ropes, the outside, and it's just the way my foot hit like half the outside mat, half the concrete. I blew out my ACL. But the thing was, I kept wrestling. So then I ended up tearing my meniscus and my other I tore both meniscus because I continued to wrestle. But yeah, it was quite the process to come back from that one.
It seems like a lot of wrestlers, have done that. Seth Rollins, he tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus, and Logan Paul just did the same. He tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So
yeah,
that seems like a
brutal.
common.
I mean, it's definitely a common thing, I think, now with the amount of athleticism that's in wrestling, and just it's such a combination of all these different sports, and your ACL tears and stuff like the NFL. So when you have the athleticism of the NBA, but the physicality of the NFL, you're going to have injuries like this. So it's kind of par for the course. A lot of guys have had it over the years, but thank God that we live in a day and age where they can rebuild you and send you back out there.
Definitely, man.
Ryan Sullivan, Taven was a damn good pocket pool player.
Thanks, Ryan.
Charlotte, when you get to Wrestle K, who's the first person you're going to look for, and why is it Ross?
Well, Ross is an employee at Impact who was great to me the last couple of months that we were there at Impact. Well, from the beginning of our time at Impact, so I was definitely going to look out for them. Impact has a show tonight that I was hoping to get to, but with these flight delays, I'm going to miss it. But hopefully tomorrow I can run into a lot of people, because it is having this long of a wrestling career, you run through so many people at the same time. It's hard to stay in touch with everyone because everyone's moving and shaking so much that you kind of only get a time to catch up with them at shows or conventions, and definitely stuff like this or WrestleCade, where there's going to be so many people in the same place. I'll be able to catch up with a lot of people. And that Impact crew, even though it just recently came to an end, it's still, that was the last 10 months of my life. So it feels like it's been a while since I've seen them. So it'll be nice to see all those guys and girls as well.
Don't know how to pronounce. Try my best to pronounce Olga.
Hi, Olga. How are you?
But
I am about to board my next flight, so I probably will have to get it going soon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was great having you on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you for taking your time out to do this podcast for us or with us. Definitely go check out Matt Taven's Pro Wrestling Tees merchandise. I'll definitely put that in the description below. yeah, like it was very great having you on. We wanted to have one last guest on this podcast this year, and and on my bucket list, you were on it, Matt Taven. Um,
Thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure,
Yeah.
man. Like you're such a
No,
good
thank
guy.
you. No, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that we had to do this in between flights, but we made it work. And let's do it again sometime. It was nice chatting with everyone, and hopefully, I'll see you guys at some live event sooner than later.
Of course,
That'd
man.
be great.
Can't wait, man. Hey, be safe tonight, man. Have a safe flight, and thanks for having me.
Yeah,
We'll do,
appreciate it.
guys. Talk to everyone later. Peace.